How's it going, everybody? It's your boy Wardy, and as you can see, we're back at it talking about the Amazons, and we're also back at it talking about the latest edition of 5 Mets free agent targets for this offseason. So the question lies, who are the Mets targeting? What are the current connections between themselves and the Mets to this point? And so much more is all what we're about to get into. So without further ado, let's hop right in. Starting off at number 5, and this player in particular I might be a little bit more long-winded with because there's a lot to discuss on this front. And that's a guy that maybe you haven't thought of too much in Adam Duvall. Duvall, of course, at the young age of 35, just had a very strong season with the Boston Red Sox and what is likely going to be his one-year stint there. And if you're wondering, have the Mets been connected to Duvall at all? Yes, they have. We're going back last offseason. Billy Epler did all he could to try to land Duvall as that corner outfield / DH target. However, decided to go to Boston because the opportunity to play more consistently on a day-to-day basis was certainly there at the time versus a Mets team that had Mark Canha, had Starling Marte at the time, not knowing his true health, but still had more options in the outfield and DH internally that led the Mets to not really want to prioritize Duvall as a guy that would be playing every day or close to. So he ends up going there to Boston, even though the Mets had a higher offer on the table. And now the Mets very well could be circling back to try to land him again this offseason with David Stearns at the helm as president of baseball operations. Because what is David Stearns looking for? He's looking for better defense for this upcoming year, improving in that front, and also helping with power, both in the DH and of course in the outfield positions. Without Mark Canha, with Jeff McNeil, of course, how much do you want to toy him in the corner, which I'm sure the Mets will still do plenty with this upcoming year, and it's Starling Marte that's anything but reliable at this point in his career. You want to add more stability, and Adam Duvall can certainly do that. And now what makes Adam Duvall stand out more than the rest after having a very impressive 2023 season, both pre and post wrist injury, in which he missed basically a good chunk of games, still had himself in under 100 games, over 20 home runs, just under 60 RBIs, and 800 OPS, and raked against left-hand starting pitching with just under 1,000 OPS. And that's what you want for this Mets team that continues to look silly left and right, no matter the type of southpaw that they face as a starter. If you're any type of southpaw, you're basically Randy Johnson against this team. And I know you're probably wondering, Tyler, what about, okay, you have JD Martinez, Jorge Soler, potentially better DH options with the power that they can give you and even at the contact rate. While that may be true, Jorge Soler is someone that is anything but defensively minded. He will not be an upgrade in that front. So it doesn't check off the box of what Stearns is looking for there. Should he stay true to the word here that he wants to help improve defense while also having power at the same time. JD Martinez isn't getting any younger, would probably love to go back to the Dodgers. And in my opinion, I don't think he would have the same type of success that he had this past year in LA, where they know how to get the best out of guys, even towards the end of their career, versus him coming into a cold Queens earlier in the year. I just don't see it being as good of a fit as I thought maybe a year ago when looking at the 2022 trade deadline. Then getting into other guys, whether it's going to be, say, a Teoscar Hernandez, who can certainly play defense, albeit it's not at a great clip, and have plenty of offensive power production this past year. Strikes out at a good rate, and between himself and Lourdes Gurriel, these are guys that, while they're not bad players by any stretch, and I would welcome them in Queens, they're also guys that are a little underwhelming in what you're hoping to add more long-term in the corner outfield position, right? If you're going to be signing guys to 5+ year deals, much rather sit back and wait at least another offseason for the Mets when there's going to be better and more available free agents out there that can help in the offensive category. So Adam Duvall on a short-term contract, exactly what I would be looking for, and I'm sure Stearns feels the same. At number 4, we're discussing a player coming over from the MPB that is not Yoshinobu Yamamoto, but is a fellow starting pitcher, this time a southpaw at the young age of 30, and Shota Imanaga, who is just officially posted by his club over there in the MPB, expected to take the MLB by storm and be hopefully a very successful middle-of-the-rotation guy for whoever lands him. And for the Mets, they're just one of a plethora of clubs that have shown recent interest and have went out of their way to scout Shota throughout this calendar year over there in the MPB. And I know you might be wondering, okay, stat line down below, is there anything different going on? Yes, there is. Shota did start 2 more games since I last made this graphic, so he did have a 2.8 year rate and not a 2.71. Just want to clarify that for anyone that has looked at his numbers and is wondering why is that not accurate, just because of the fact that the last time I discussed Shota when the Mets were officially scouting him was a number of weeks ago. But why exactly Shota Imanaga is so appealing for this Mets team? Well, David Stearns said it best. I need 2 to 3 starters to land this offseason in Queens, either through the free agent and or trade market. And Shota Imanaga checks off plenty of boxes for this Mets team, regardless of what happens with, say, Yoshinobu Yamamoto. He's definitely one that can have immediate success in this rotation, and should there not be a hierarchy issue with fellow countrymen, that being of Japanese descent, playing with each other at the MLB level that we've heard rumblings about from Ken Rosenthal over the past number of weeks with Kodai Senga, then this shouldn't be an issue either for them to be a 1-2 punch in this rotation. Now, Shota, known for his off-speed stuff to induce soft groundouts or, of course, get those flyouts when called upon, and along with the strikeouts as always, is someone that can come into this Mets rotation right in the middle and be effective and will not come nearly at the cost of what it's going to take for Yoshinobu Yamamoto, and Aaron Nola, Blake Snell, even a Jordan Montgomery, just to name a few, as the guys headlining this year's free agent class among starters. You're going to see Shota kind of fall in that middle category, and while there's of course uncertainty in what he will do at the MLB level, recent success with Kodai Senga and Jeremy Henford would lead you to believe that this is a relationship that can certainly be a positive one. So keep an eye out on Shota Imanaga as a starter that could very well find himself landing in Queens. At number 3, we're staying on the Southpaw topic, but this time a World Series champion just crowned in Jordan Montgomery. I know that stings Yanks fans, doesn't it? Well, thankfully that isn't a problem for someone like me. Sorry you had to catch a stray. What else is new, right? But seriously, Jordan Montgomery is someone who didn't just have a phenomenal 2023 campaign splitting time with the Cardinals and the Rangers in the regular season, but the guy was a key factor into that World Series success the Rangers had for the first time in their history. So no one should be shocked if Monty ends up going back to the Rangers because, one, you don't have to deal with the taxes they have in New York should he say want to sign with the Mets, and 2, this is a Rangers team that just won a World Series with him being a key factor. Why wouldn't they want him to return? I'm sure there's mutual interest there, so we'll see what happens on that front. But if Monty does not return to Texas to stay with the Rangers, keep an eye on the Mets to be a player here because of the long time success he had during his time in the Bronx with the Yanks. Not only having success at the MLB level with the New York Yankees, which is not an easy market to do, but understanding what it's like to be playing in New York, having the media pressure on you constantly, especially after bad starts, and handling it, owning it really well is what Monty certainly did throughout his tenure there in the Bronx. And has that current connection to what degree? I honestly don't know. We'll find out over time, potentially. And Carlos Mendoza, the Mets' new managerial hire after being a long-time bench boss there with the Yanks over the past 4+ years, and prior to that had been in the organization for over the past decade plus. So there are connections currently between the Mets and Monty in that sense, and add in the fact that, yeah, the Mets need starting pitching. They need it really, really bad. And while Monty's going to be looking for a pretty penny, justifiably so this offseason, especially after winning a World Series championship, it's nothing that the Mets can't handle. It's really going to come down to what is their interest level on long term. Are they willing to, say, go 6-7 years for a Jordan Montgomery possibly, if that's what it's going to take? And for Montgomery to save interest in coming back to New York, this time in a different borough in Queens with the Mets. A lot of questions that we face, and hopefully we find out answers, because Jordan Montgomery in a Mets uniform in this rotation definitely wouldn't hurt. And at number 2, I have what may come as a surprise to some of you, and that is Shohei Ohtani. And you shouldn't be surprised by Ohtani being in the video, but you might be surprised by him being number 2 on the list. And the simple answer is there's a lot of question marks with Shohei Ohtani and his interest level and where he's going to land this offseason for one. We have yet to hear the interest level of him coming to the East Coast, if that's even realistic, or we have yet to hear his willingness to even want to get out of California, with the Dodgers looking like the frontline headliner to land him all this time. What we do know, however, is that Shohei Ohtani is a unicorn. He is easily the best player in the game, and whoever lands him is going to have the luxury of having a superstar like no other on the club for the next decade plus, at over $500 million is what it's likely going to take to land him. Thankfully for the Mets, they have this owner by the name of Steve Cohen that is willing to spend more money than any other owner in the game, or at least that's what we've seen to this point thus far since Cohen became owner, right? But what we do also know is that, yes, Shohei Ohtani, while he's this phenomenal talent and he is going to continue to be just that, there is uncertainty on his future as a starting pitcher, as he'll be out for the next calendar year still with the surgery that he suffered throughout this season. I believe this is his second Tommy John, if my memory serves me correct. Could be wrong. If I am, sounds like a day that ends in Y. Point being still is that Ohtani is someone, while he's phenomenal and he is this two-way star that we've never seen before, we don't know exactly how he's going to profile when he fully returns from his injury. Is he going to be that same star that he was, that is truly carving up hitters at around 11 K per 9, a very strong walk rate, a career right around 3 or so ERA, a 3.01 as a matter of fact? It's just unbelievable numbers that you get Ohtani as a starter and as a batter with 40+ home runs a year, over 1,000 OPS. I mean, what doesn't this guy do, and who wouldn't want him, right? So while there are so many factors that lead you to believe, okay, the Mets need to do everything they can to get this guy, and they may very well do just that, there's also reasons to believe, given the current status of this Mets club, with not really going completely all in 2024 to be a World Series contender, but more so just trying to make playoffs, and an Ohtani that very well could be looking to win on top of making $500 million, that might not be the most appealing destination for him, which is Queens. So because of that reason, that's why I do not have him again at number 1. But do not get it twisted. Steve Cohen, David Stearns, they're going to do all they can to be involved in these sweepstakes, and it wouldn't shock anyone. It certainly would not shock me. The Mets ended up coming out on top because Steve Cohen said, I want Shohei Ohtani. I'm going to do everything I possibly can to land him. And again, this is Steve Cohen we're talking about. So let's buckle up and see what is in store for the future of Ohtani in these sweepstakes. But one thing we do know is that the Mets will be involved. And at number 1, it's the Mets' worst kept secret, it feels like, in Yoshinobu Yamamoto. Now, we have talked glowingly and extensively on Yoshi over not only the past week, but really over the past couple months now, so please make sure to check out all that respective content in case you haven't. Rest assured, once we find out where Yamamoto lands, we will discuss that as is, but all the build-up we will be talking about to a T, because Yamamoto is the Mets' number 1 target. He is their top priority. He needs to be this offseason, as they are in desperate need to add to this rotation, and Yoshinobu Yamamoto fits everything that this Mets team is looking for. You want youth, you're getting that at the young age of 25, has yet to hit his peak. Is just getting his MLB career started after dominating the MPB, after winning his 3rd consecutive Cy Young, a 1.21 ERA, his final playoff start in the MPB, looking like an absolute stud, striking out everyone, their mother, their sister, their brother, and their father. Just has everything you want in a starter, touches high velo, nasty off speed, induces soft contact, and is willing to play with Kodai Senga, in which Kodai Senga has been going out of his way to advocate not only Mets front office, their brass, but in Japan itself, how much he wants Yoshinobu Yamamoto on the Mets. So while it's going to be no easy task with a lot of other teams highlighting the Yanks and the Giants to name a few that would love Yamamoto on their club, one thing is certain: the Mets need starting pitching. They have money to provide. Yamamoto is going to be getting probably at least $200 million. And if we're talking about strictly money, and of course location, other factors come into play. But when talking about money, who can outbid the rest? That is Steve Cohen and this New York Mets ran club. So Yoshinobu Yamamoto, a guy that would not only be the face of this Mets rotation alongside Kodai Senga, but has all the potential to be a long-term impactful player for when the Mets are finally that true playoff contender, but a team that's going to have consistent and sustainable success. This is the exact kind of player that you're looking for to have on a long-term contract. So Mets, David Stearns, what you're waiting for, continue to do everything you can to land this guy, and thank you so much in advance. And that'll do it, Mets fans. I want to know your thoughts down below on these 5 free agent targets. Which ones do you like, maybe not like? Do you expect all of them to land in Queens? Do you expect none of them to land in Queens? Whatever your thoughts are, drop them down below. And of course, if you enjoyed the content, consider smashing that like and subscribe button. Greatly supports the channel as we're trying to get oh so close to the 25K mark for our next short-term goal. Thank you all so much for the continued support. Stay tuned for consistent Mets coverage all off season long. And until then, this is your boy Wardy signing out. As always, let's go Mets, baby. Peace.